Most people treat letting go like a decision. Like if you just think about it correctly, if you frame it right, if you tell yourself the right story, the attachment will release and you'll be free of it. You'll move on. You'll be fine. Anyone who has actually tried this knows the gap between understanding something and feeling it. You can know you should let go of a job, a relationship, a version of yourself that no longer fits and still carry it. Still reach for it in moments of stress. Still compare your present against the thing you were supposed to have released months ago. The self-help advice on letting go tends to be one of two things. Either a reframe, this is actually a blessing, or an instruction, just decide to release it. Both of these locate the problem in the mind, as if the right cognitive move would dissolve the thing that months of ordinary effort couldn't touch. There's a reason willpower alone doesn't work for this. The parts of us that hold on are not primarily rational. They don't respond to arguments. They respond to time, to experience, to something closer, to what happens in a body that has gone through a season, rather than a mind that has thought its way through one. There is a very old Japanese concept that points to a different approach entirely, not deciding to let go, learning from what already does. The Japanese word is Satoyama. Literally, it means village, mountain, Sato, meaning village or countryside, Yama meaning mountain. But the word describes something more specific than geography. Satoyama refers to the traditional landscape that existed between ancient Japanese villages and the mountains behind them, a managed borderland neither fully wild nor fully cultivated. Forests tended for firewood and building material. Fields rotated through crops and left fallow. Wetlands maintained for biodiversity. Streams guided to irrigate paddies, then returned to their natural course. For centuries, rural Japanese communities lived in intimate relationship with this landscape. They didn't conquer it. They didn't preserve it untouched. They participated in it, working with its cycles, following its rhythms, taking what was needed and giving back what could be given. The Satoyama landscape was, in its essence, a practice of reciprocity with change. What the Satoyama taught, what any landscape teaches, if you pay close attention over time, is that letting go is not a single act. It is a rhythm. In a forest, a tree falls. The fallen tree decays. The decay feeds the soil. New growth emerges from the soil, using the nutrients the old tree released. Nothing in this sequence requires a decision. Nothing requires the tree to agree to fall, or the new growth to be grateful, or the soil to understand its role. The process simply continues, and the continuation is what generates new life. This is what the communities who managed Satoyama landscapes absorbed through generations of observation. That resistance to seasonal change was not just futile, but genuinely counterproductive. The farmer who refused to let the field lie fallow exhausted the soil. The forest manager who couldn't bear to cut the mature trees prevented the light that younger growth needed. Holding on the instinct that feels like care, like protection, was often the thing that prevented the next season from arriving. There is a concept in Japanese aesthetics called utsuroi, the beauty of transition itself. Not the thing that was, not the thing that will be, but the movement between them. Cherry blossoms are the most famous example, but utsuroi runs through every aspect of traditional Japanese aesthetics. The asymmetry in a tea bowl that acknowledges the hand that made it. The garden designed to look different in every season. Bare branches in winter, blossoms in spring, dense canopy in summer, colored leaves in autumn. None of it a failure, all of it the point. Utsuroi suggests something that Western aesthetics rarely offers, that the transition itself can be beautiful, not something to endure on the way to the next stable state, but something worth attention in its own right. When you're in the middle of letting go of something, when you're between what was and what will be, this reframe matters. You are not in a failed state. You are in a season. And the season has its own texture, its own qualities, its own particular light. It is not a waiting room. It is the Satoyama itself, the managed borderland, where the old and the new coexist before the new takes over completely. The psychological research on this is interesting. Studies on grief and loss consistently show that the people who move through major transitions most fully are not the ones who decide fastest that they're over it. They are not the ones who reframe most skillfully, or who maintain the most positive attitude, or who commit earliest to moving forward. They are the ones who allow the full experience of the transition, who don't rush themselves to the next state, who don't perform recovery before it's real, who don't use busyness or optimism or philosophical distance to skip past what is actually happening. Psychologist George Bonanno, who has spent decades studying how people recover from loss, found that a significant portion of people move through grief without lasting dysfunction, not because they feel less, but because they allow the process to run at its natural pace without fighting it. Resistance, paradoxically, is often what converts ordinary grief into something that lingers. The attempt to shortcut loss, to decide your way out of it, to resolve it intellectually, before it has moved through the body, often extends the very thing it's trying to escape. The suppressed feeling doesn't go away. It goes underground where it requires more energy to maintain, and tends to surface unpredictably at the least convenient moments. What works looks a lot like what Satoyama culture practiced, staying present in the transition, noticing what is actually there rather than rushing toward what should be there, allowing the natural cycle to move at its own speed. Rather than forcing it into a timeline the mind prefers. Letting go, when it is genuine, is less like a decision and more like a season ending. You don't experience winter deciding to become spring. You experience the temperature gradually shifting, the light returning, something that was frozen beginning to soften and move. And then one day you notice that what you were holding has already quietly left. There is something in Satoyama culture specifically that goes beyond the metaphor. The communities who manage these landscapes did so across generations. The person who planted a tree knew they would likely not live to see its full growth. The decisions made in one generation shaped what was available to the next. The relationship with the land was explicitly longer than any individual life. This perspective changes how you hold things. When your frame is the length of a season or a year, a loss feels catastrophic. When your frame is the length of several generations, loss becomes part of an ongoing cycle that is larger than any single chapter. This is not detachment. It is not indifference. The Satoyama farmers were not indifferent to their land. They were deeply, practically committed to it. But their commitment was to the land's continuing health over time, not to any particular state of the land at any particular moment. This is the wisdom available in the Satoyama metaphor. To care deeply about something while holding it loosely. To be fully invested in the present season, while remaining open to the season that follows. You don't have to move to a Japanese village to practice this. Start with observation. The next time you notice yourself holding tightly to something, a plan that isn't working, a relationship that has fundamentally changed, an identity or a role that once fit, and no longer does pause before reaching for a decision or a reframe. Ask, instead, what season is this? Not as a way to make yourself feel better, or to frame the situation more favorably, or to trick yourself into equanimity. As a genuine inquiry, what is actually happening in this transition? What is being released? And what does that releasing make possible? What might be becoming available that wasn't available before, even if it isn't visible yet? The Satoyama farmer didn't grieve the fallow field. They understood that the rest was part of the work. The season of not producing was what made the next season of producing possible. They prepared. They maintained. They stayed close to the land during the pause, rather than abandoning it. This is the practice. Not deciding your way out of the transition, and not disappearing from it either. Staying present with what is actually happening, allowing yourself to be in the Satoyama, the borderland, without demanding that it resolve faster than it naturally will. The letting go, when it comes, will not feel like a decision. It will feel like noticing that something has already changed, not by pretending the transition wasn't real, but by understanding that the transition was itself the work all along. If this kind of perspective, the kind that comes from centuries of watching how things actually change, not just how we wish they would, is something you want more of, follow for more. There's a lot here.